Hey there, freaking awesome people. Winnie here from Mind Now, and welcome back to Inspirational Mind, where we break down channels, interview people to gain their perspective on how you can master your mind to gain that self confidence and self esteem, especially as an introvert. But hey, don't shy away if you're an extrovert because the world needs you. And today we have a special guest. It is Joey from Better Ideas. Thank you so much for being here. How you doing, bro?
Dude, super happy to be here. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, bro. Finally, having you here on my interview. I'm so glad that you're here. So, anyway, let's get right to it. The first question, my favorite question is, how do you gain self-confidence and belief in yourself?
hmm Now, this one's a tough one because we live in a world that's very, um, yeah, there seems to be a lot of conflicting opinions, right? Like, if you spend any time in the self improvement space, it becomes pretty obvious that, there's completely contradictory evidence as to how you gain self confidence. On one hand, it's very objective and external, being like, oh, yeah, you got to get your life together, got to get your act together, start living a life that you are proud of, or, like get your finances in order, start working out. And then the other side is saying that it's all internal, which is like, oh, all this stuff doesn't matter at all. It's all about, your belief in yourself, your mental conditioning, what you perceive. Like, if you feel good, then you will be good and you'll operate confidently. But I don't think either of those is like an absolute answer. And a lot of those sound really good on paper, but the evidence for when it's acted out is sort of a blend of both. So, like, I personally think there's no substitute to living a life that is aligned with your values. So, your values is an internal thing, but the way you act them out is an external thing. So, if you find that you are lacking confidence in day-to-day situations or confidence about yourself, it means you're not doing something right, or your values that you've set for yourself are unattainable and you're not reaching them. So one thing's got to change. It's either your lifestyle to fit into your values, or your actual values have to change. And changing your values is not as easy as it might think. Those values have been developed over years and years and years since childhood, drilled into your head by your parents. It's not so easy as faking it until you make it, as like the pickup community would like often want you to do as you're going out into a bar or something like that. It's just like, oh yeah, just act confident. That's a really thin layer and it doesn't really mean anything. Like, developing true confidence, like a rock solid foundation, takes years of conditioning. It means like really convincing yourself of new values, or really living a life in which you're comfortable and you feel like you're living a good life that's completely aligned with your values. That is the only way. There's no shortcut, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, totally agree with you on that. I think we have to work on ourself first, like internally, what our values are and standing for that. And yeah, you said it correctly, where you actually act out those values, right? So in order to yeah, know what your values are, how do you actually go about that? Like discovering what your values are, is that like through experience or?
Yeah, you know what? If you want to be calculated about it, there's a lot of good tools online that will help you, that are actually developed by psychological research to help you uncover what you find most valuable in life, or what your moral compass is, or all these facets that kind of form your identity. Um, but yeah, like, you can really just look for a lot of good tools online that will help you, figure out what your values are. It takes a long time to really kind of, because you kind of have to, like, right off the bat, if I'm thinking about what my values are, it's just like, oh yeah, honesty. It's like, but what does honesty mean? How does that look in practice? Are there exceptions to that? Am I really living to that? Do I really think that is, the most important thing, or is that one of the most important things? Does that mean living honestly through my actions? Does that mean the spoken truth? Like there's a lot to unpack with one simple value that you think you strive towards. And by the time you're done unpacking, you may find that you don't even, it's not even a value that's super important to you. And it's just sort of like a sentiment that was drilled into your head through movies or Disney or whoever. And you don't actually believe that. So it takes a long time, a lot of intentional work to figure out what your values are. And it's up to you to sort of put in the effort.
Would you say that you're a confident person, or are you still discovering your values?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I feel fairly confident in most situations, but in terms of, yeah, like I have a lot of work to do. I'm still discovering what my values are. I'm discovering that some things that I thought my values were actually aren't. Um, so yeah, no, like honestly, I'm not the most confident person I know. But I compare myself to kind of who I was a few years ago, and I notice the things I would say. A really good indicator of someone who's not confident is somebody who says things that kind of betrays what they really feel, and they say things to people that are sort of like out of their own character. They say them to fit in, or they say them out of a reaction because they think it's what someone else wants to hear. Um, but I've noticed that I'm not doing that as much anymore, and I can really just sort of speak to what I'm feeling, what I believe, and let the cards fall. Like this is what I think. If you don't like it, tell me, and I can consider it for sure. But yeah, I'm making progress, but I'm not like 10 out of 10 confident. And I don't know if I ever will be. I don't know who is 10 out of 10 confident without putting on at least a little bit of a public persona. Like even just a pinch, because you don't operate the same way or you don't act the same way in front of your mom as you do in front of your friends, right? You're always going to have this element of, a little bit of a facade, but it's like almost to fit into your various groups that you're a part of in life. I don't think that ever goes away.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Man, social, I don't know how you call it, maybe social pressure, or like you act differently, like you said, in front of your mom, your dad, your friends, you just, and it's weird because somehow it feels normal, but then yet again, if you really think about it, is it really normal, or are you conditioned to act that way because you've been acting like that your entire life? And
Yeah. Yeah, I think, if you go back from an evolutionary perspective, you have to sort of ask yourself, like, why we develop, because it's very natural. Literally, every single person that you know acts differently in front of certain people than they do with others. And you got to figure out, like, why was that, developed back in the day as we were evolving? Did that have to do with, like, it's hard to really pinpoint exactly what kind of groups people were in the primal era of life, right?
yeah,
Like they had their hunter, they had their little men group that they went out hunting with, and they killed animals and brought it back for the women and children. But when they were with the women and children, they must have acted a little bit differently, and that was probably to the benefit of the group. It all had the benefit. It all benefited the survival of the group. When you are uh, faced against like an enemy tribe, or if you're confronting an enemy tribe, the men, are probably filled with testosterone. They got to look intimidating because they're trying to defend the women and children. There's a lot of survival aspects that are still in this monkey brain of ours that we're still trying to figure out. But back in the day, it made a lot more sense. We're just not in tribal warfare anymore. So we're just like, why the frick am I having this fight or flight response when this pretty girl asked me for my name? Like that didn't like what is this? What is this happening for? But it's fight or flight is a primal thing that goes back, millions of years. So
yeah.
it's not an easy answer.
Yeah. Are you more analytical now when you're among groups? Because you said, okay, you're not 100% confident and you're still discovering what your values are. And now that you're telling me all of this, are you now more analytical being at like a social event or among friends and how you act, or how do you go about that?
I think the key to me being more confident in groups is being less analytical. Like I've learned to be more present, and I think so. I was homeschooled back in the day, and most of my friends were in public school. And every time I was invited to, go hang out with them, or go to a social event or something like that, I was really up in here trying to think about, oh, what are the cool kids doing? How do the cool kids act? How can I be one of the cool kids? So literally everything I said had this filter of trying to be a cool kid, trying to fit in, trying to do the right thing. And I think becoming confident was a process of being less analytical in social situations and trying to just get rid of the filter. Just be present. Meditation helped me with that. Stoicism helped me with that. Trying to learn how to have no filter and just say what I want to say without thinking about, what anyone else thinks about that. It's a fairly standard answer, but I think, yeah, that's a huge key to confidence is trying to figure out who you are and operating consistently through all areas of your life, with all groups in your life, getting rid of that filter, getting out of your head into your body. That's what it's all about, in my experience.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you on that. Do you do anything to actually help you be more in present, or do you remind yourself of that, or are there any exercises that helps you with that?
Um, yeah, like it kind of depends. So say I had to give a speech or something like that, and I noticed I was really worried about it, and I was in my head, and I felt like I was going to psych myself out. Um, and I had to take a shower beforehand to, get all dressed up. I'd probably take a cold shower because it would just like shock my system, get me out of my head, and really bring me like, oh, okay, I'm like here in this world. I can feel pain. I'm here, right? Um, would I take a cold shower before every single social outing? No. Like just it can take like 10 to 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30, little meditation. Try to really, one thing I do actually is I look at my hands and I try to curl my fingers slowly and intentionally and just remind myself that, I'm moving my fingers. My fingers are a part of my body. I'm curling them. It's kind of weird that I can move my fingers, and I'm not sure how it all works, but I'm doing it and it's in front of me. And then by the time I'm sort of like, oh, like I'm here, I'm like present in the moment. I'm not like trying to think about what everyone thinks. Just weird exercises like that. Everything to bring you into the present moment can really help you.
I love that exercise with the hands, man. Oh, I can move my fingers.
Yeah, like what is this?
No, but it's, yeah, if you really look at it and you can, like, if you really concentrate on that, it is fascinating. Like everything is really fascinating, how we think and yeah, like I love those exercises, man. I think I will definitely like use that as well.
Yeah, just like bring out that childhood curiosity about your own hand. It's like, what's going on?
Oh man. So yeah, talking about the mind now. On my channel, I talk a lot about like mastering your mind to gain self confidence, etc. And there, what I would like to know from you is, do you think that you can actually achieve anything what, like, if you put your mind to it, or do you say rather focus on something that you're actually good at?
Yeah, so I think technically speaking, you can achieve like way more than you think you can achieve. For starters, almost everything is technically possible. Like if I wanted to run for the president of the United States, and I live in Canada, so you have to be a US citizen. There technically is a way for me to, forge the documents necessary, get into the political sphere. There is a certain right step, like of actions, a certain sequence of actions I can take in order for me to eventually become the president of the United States. Is it likely? Not at all. Is it even worth pursuing? Probably not. But it's technically possible. So if I really, if I made up my mind and that was like the one thing I wanted to do, there is a way. That being said, absolutely play your strengths. You might find that the things that you're good at, you enjoy, or play to what you enjoy, right? Like you only have like a limited time on this earth. So like if I wanted to be president of the United States, that might be like possible in a 300-year timeline. It might take me 300 years before I figure out how to actually make that possible. But you don't have that much time. So like if you enjoy making videos, hustle at your day job and try to figure out a way to make money doing video. Um, yeah, I'm not exactly sure where else to go with this other than, I think it is important to know that you can do literally anything, which should inspire you to give you the fuel to take that thing you enjoy and make a career out of it. Because there always is a way. Like there's a way to do crazier things than that. It's possible.
Yeah. And how was it with you? Because you are also editing videos for YouTube and stuff, and I guess you love making videos and all. Have you always been like fond of making videos, or did you develop that passion just out of curiosity? Oh, let's make some videos, and maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't.
Yeah. So I liked video. I like making videos, I think, because initially I liked acting in videos. And back in the day, my older brother and his friends would make a lot of videos. I don't know where they would post them. It's just like the old little load-in cassette things, tape recorders, and they'd make like little terrorist movies and like the SWAT versus terrorists, and and I would act in them sometimes, and they would let me. You know how older brothers are, like they probably don't want their little brothers in the movies, but whenever I got the chance, it was like the most exciting thing ever. Like you're creating this world in film, and yeah, it would just bring me so much joy and inspiration. And I was only like 8 years old, so the minute that I got my hands on a video camera, I wanted to make these movies just like my older brothers. And I just really dove into that, and all I ever wanted to do was become a movie director. um, and it was my sole purpose in life.
Wow.
But that inspiration, as you get older, sort of dies out. And during a period in high school and into university, I stopped making videos altogether. I didn't make a single video. I don't know if I got lazy or started to like gaming, or if I wanted to fit in to my university. But yeah, that passion kind of died out, until one day a friend of mine's like, "Hey, you should reach out to this guy who's looking for a video guy. You do video, or you dabble with that for his company." So I did, and he's like, "Joey, call me. We need a video guy." And I'm like, "Holy, I'm totally operating out of my comfort zone right now. This is an actual company that needs a video done." Um, so I just said, like, "Yeah, to hell with it. I'm just gonna try it out." Um, and yeah, the rest is history. I just, did as good of a job as I could, and then that led to referrals, and now I do like contract videography full time, and that only took like less than 2 years. So
Wow, that's awesome,
there's
man.
like a weird, there's a weird, that inspiration's coming back now, right? It's like, okay, now that I'm being reinforced and I'm actually operating in that field, that childlike need to make some sort of big film or documentary is coming back,
Yeah.
and I really want to.
How long did you take a break from that actually?
Um, I don't think it was like a cold turkey break, but it was just like it was almost no creative output, and it was kind of between grade 11 and maybe second year of university. So like a nice 4 year period where like I made videos sometimes. Maybe I make like a sketch comedy with like a group of friends that was 2 minutes long every couple of months or something. But it really was like I wasn't improving all that much.
Mm, mhm.
I was still buying new camera equipment because I'm just like a fiend for new camera equipment.
No, you make great videos, man. Like, yeah, I want to someday be able to make as good as you. Obviously, we all have our unique style and stuff, but
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
also one of my
Yeah.
inspiration, you know. And so,
Hit me up. I'd love to like talk to you about like the best bang for buck camera gear and stuff to just really elevate the production quality. But yeah, no, you have a charisma that I don't have. So you have that going for you. You have a persistence that I don't have. So definitely, if you're talking about playing your strengths, those are your greatest tools.
thank you very much. So yeah, like again, I have to go back to like always when I watch your videos, I'm like, damn, you know. But it's good. It's good to have like inspiration and stuff, you know. One thing what I don't like to do is like compare myself to others. But when it comes to inspiration, comparing is a good thing. Like there's like a positive comparing and a negative comparing. Like if you negative compare, it's like, oh, why am I not like that? But positive comparing, oh, I should do that. That is a good thing, right? So there's always like positive and negative thing to everything. Now, yeah, talking about morning routine, I think you made a video on that once, if I'm not mistaken. But do you have like a morning routine or evening routine that sets you up, you know, throughout your day? Because I always associate confidence with energy and positivity. Somehow it's like a cherry on top. So, or maybe you define confidence a bit differently. I mean, you already said with your values and, you know, working on yourself before. But energy and positivity is kind of like an extra thing. So going back again, do you have like a morning and evening routine?
You know what? I'm one of the weird freaks that does not have a morning routine. Like, there's no way. I get up fairly early every day. Like, I'm up. My morning routine is waking up as soon as my alarm goes off, which I've been a little bit lazier with recently. But generally speaking, you know, nothing too crazy like 7 a.m. You know, not crazy early or anything, but like when it goes off at 7 a.m. Whether it's a weekday or a weekend, I will be getting up. Actually, it takes me a while to shower, so I'll go down, get my protein bars in me, get a cup of coffee, and since I'm self-employed, like usually what I'll do is I'll get my coffee in my AeroPress, get my coffee, and like if I have an editing project, I'm diving straight into that editing project. Like I'm not going on social media. I'm not going checking my email. I don't even want to. Like I know there's going to be tons of emails there. I know there's going to be tons of notifications. I already know that. Like, I am not surprising myself by checking. So I always put my phone on do not disturb mode for like 3 hours and I'm just editing. And I think that's, if you look at some of the best, novelists and stuff like that and people who like really dive into their craft, I think what's it, Brandon Sanderson, um, I don't know if you read the Stormlight Archive fantasy books. Um, I don't. I never read fantasy books until last summer, where I'm like, I'm reading a lot of nonfiction. I'm gonna try some fiction, and it completely blew my mind. I'm loving it. But anyways, I'm like, how does this guy write so much content in such a short amount of time? Like that guy's crazy. It's a 1,200 word fantasy book that he came up with it in his head, award winning. Everyone reads it, top rating, and he just cranks these out. I'm like, how is that possible? That blows my mind. But as I've read, a lot of these fantasy writers, they do kind of a similar thing. They like lock themselves out from reality. You can't find them on social media. They have a completely digital minimalist approach. They grab their coffee in the morning, they sit down at the typewriter or the computer, and they just like bang it out for like 5 hours, 6 hours. So they're done. And they're done. And they can do whatever they want after that. They can go hang out with friends. They can, go socialize, have some beers or whatever. But that morning time or like, that first segment of the day is just like, I'm not doing anything else except working on my craft. So I sort of want to follow that approach. It's like I don't really have like this 10-minute meditation I do in the morning, and I don't do yoga or cold showers or anything every single morning. But I really do want to make sure that whatever I do, I'm not clouding my brain with the internet or polluting it with notifications, and I'm just diving into the most important thing for several hours, and then I can do whatever I want after that.
Nowadays with social media and everything, it's distracting us like constantly. And when a notification comes, you're like, oh, who just texted me? And instead of like working, you then you're on your phone, and then you're like, checking more and more, and then you're like, oh my god, I should have been working instead of like checking the phone, right? So yeah, but do you actually take breaks when you work for 3 hours, or do you like work 3 hours straight?
I'll usually work 3 hours straight. Yeah, a lot of people do like the Pomodoro technique, and they will want to work for 20 minutes. I think the Pomodoro is 20 minutes and then a 10-minute break. 25. Yeah, so that's totally fair. If it works for you and you're actually able to get back into work and resume where you started after that second time, go for it. But for me, I don't know what it is, but maybe I have like an undiagnosed ADHD or something like that that I've learned to hack by myself. And part of that is once I dive into work and I enter the flow state, which happens around the 20-minute to half an hour mark. It's really painful to work for that first 20 minutes. You really have to force yourself. Sometimes I'm unsuccessful, but if I can make it past that 20 minutes, I enter this flow state where like nothing else exists except for that project. And once I'm there, I can work for a very long time. And I really don't want to take a break because I know by the time I get back into it, I'm not going to have that same tunnel vision that I did. I don't know if you have that same experience when you're working for a deadline or an essay or something like that, and you have no option but to get it done, and you're trying to hit a deadline that's like 2 hours from now. You have no problem focusing at all. It's just like laser beam vision. It's crazy superpower shit. And you're like, why don't I have that all the time? And that's probably because you're not creating or sort of like you distracted yourself with social media before in the day, and you kind of like polluted your brain with dopamine, and you didn't make it past the flow state barrier. So yeah, I would give it a try. It's actually easier than it seems to work for like 3 hours on something, um, as long as you make it past the flow state barrier, which is a term that I totally made up. And
No, but it totally makes sense. I'm like following along, man. But it's totally true. Like, I think with me, it's also around 20 minutes. Like, the first 20 minutes is really kind of difficult and challenging, but once you get past that, you're just like, oh yeah, let's rock and roll, man. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Your desk is like off the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And but especially with editing, I can also do like for very long time, right? I think 2 to 3 hours is actually quite normal. But when it comes to scripting, I think that is that is where I have to use the Pomodoro technique, like 25 minutes and then 5 minutes break. But it's actually like focusing and giving time for that specific task is like much more productive than doing it, then checking something, and then because you're not in the flow state, right? And you're like always interrupted and distracted. But yeah, I totally love that approach, man. So have you heard of the law of attraction? I guess you did. What's your take on that, man?
People, I feel like there's a huge cult following around the law of attraction, and I think it works in a sick kind of way to some extent, right? Like the law of attraction, if you really buy into it and you had never heard of anything like that before, it really opens the door to like, healthy mindset, positive mindset, visualizing your goals, and it's sort of a tunnel vision towards them. It's like, oh, I'm getting into that. I'm in that direction. I'm going in that direction, and that will naturally lead you in that direction or make it far more likely to happen. I feel like, in terms of like a magical force that sort of aligns the universe as a whole, I think, that's where it's a little bit shifty and it's hard to sort of like quantify, right? Like no one can really prove that that's the case. It's all sort of like it's in that woo woo field that I think people, when they hear self improvement, that's where a lot of the bad rap comes from. Because a lot of the most powerful CEOs in the entire planet never heard of the law of attraction. They just like, they were determined and they had a goal and they just followed through with it, and it was important to them. Whether you want to call that law of attraction or not, it was just like good law, like good goal following, maybe a bit of luck and determination. They got it. So I think, yeah, no, like the law of attraction is really healthy to think about, but like, yeah, put a damper on maybe like the magical aspect of it, because I think it actually just, your psychology is already fairly magical. Like you would think it's already like positive mindset is magical in a sense that it's like kind of beyond our understanding and it seems ethereal, but it is still scientific. Having positive mindset, um, visualizing a future, putting a label on a goal, really being specific about what you want, and reinforcing yourself and encouraging yourself that you can do it is just good positive psychology, and it works. It's not necessarily magic, but it could feel like magic, and you might as well call it magic, and you'd probably be no worse off.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like you've already said, you just gotta be determined and have a goal, and then just work towards it. And because maybe let's say you believe in law of attraction, all of that, because of the RAS, the reticular activating system, you only focus on that. And so whatever, I don't know if you've ever heard of this experiment that Tony Robbins did, where he says like, okay, look in a room, okay,
I was
look.
just going to bring that up actually.
Yeah, exactly. And it's exactly like that with law of attraction kind of as well, because whatever failures come, you kind of perceive that as not a failure, but rather as a learning experience, right? And then your mindset is shifted towards positive things rather than negative, and then you keep on pushing and pushing and pushing, and then boom, something great comes into your life, and then you say, oh, that is because of law of attraction, but it's actually because you kind of manipulated your mind into thinking positively, right? So I think at the end of the day, it's only about thinking positive and taking action towards it. And what I also would like to add is that everything what I do right now, even though I have my goals with YouTube and Instagram and all of that, I consider it as a preparation. Like I might not be where I want to be with YouTube in a few years, but the skills that I have acquired till then, it prepares me for something good, and when an opportunity comes, boom, I can, I'm ready to tackle it and get it. So that is how I see it.
Yeah, well, like, I haven't read the book So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport, but I've read Deep Work by him. So I can sort of understand. I can pick his brain. I should probably just read the book, but I really like that idea that no matter what you're doing, if you're diving into something that you love and you are developing a skill when everyone else is sort of just like kind of being flashy about it on social media, and you're just putting in the hours, you're just like just grinding it out, like you are doing with your YouTube. Eventually down the road, you're going to have a set of skills that nobody else in your field has. And people are going to be like, where did you get these skills from, man? They're polished. They're unlike anything we've ever seen. And you're like, well, I've been grinding it out on YouTube. Nobody, like it doesn't matter how many people are watching. I was just developing the skill, and that's how I got to the level that I am right now. And literally every successful person, with the exception of maybe like the 5 percentile, has a similar story. Like the Beatles, I don't know much about the Beatles. My dad would kill me for this, but they were playing in like shitty little pubs and stuff like that for the longest time, developing their act and getting good and just grinding it out, putting it in the hours on stage until eventually they became an overnight success, right? It's
Yeah.
the same story every time. It's just, are you being valuable with your time? Are you treating your time with value? And are you being constructive with it? Because most people aren't. So the very fact that you being productive, leveraged by time, that will equal, a certain set of skills that nobody else has later down the road. It's inevitable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, most people always see the overnight success, right? They don't see the failures that you've gone through, the working hours that you've put in, and all of that. They don't. Maybe they ignore it, but it's like obvious. Like, okay, some people might get lucky, and maybe they have rich parents or whatever. But it's like an exception, and most of people, they really hustled and worked for their dream, and so it always takes a longer time.
Yeah.
Now, talking about passion and purpose, a lot of people in their 20s, including me in the past, I've always asked myself, okay, what is my passion? What is my purpose? What should I do in life? I don't know if you've already figured out your passion or purpose, but I know that you love your video editing and stuff. So what advice would you actually give to people who haven't figured out what their passion is and what their purpose is, and should they actually be following their passion or not? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think the most important thing in terms of finding your passion is not it's not finding an external passion, it's finding an internal passion. Are you need to find an enjoyment, you need to cultivate an enjoyment of life and become a passionate person, because chances are you are already a passionate person for some things. Some people have lost their passion for life and they're super cynical, and it'd be very hard for that type of person to find their passion, right? Or find that one career that will solve all of their problems. That is almost never the case, right? You need to you need to cultivate passion within you, become somebody who enjoys things, who loves life, and then follow opportunity. That way, if an opportunity comes along that seems like a good opportunity, you don't have to be super concerned whether that is your career job or your dream job, or if I go for it, am I going to be sacrificing this other potential dream job that's going to come in? It's like it doesn't matter. All that stops it stops mattering because you're already passionate. You'll bring your passion to that job, and I think that's often overlooked today.
Oh, yeah. If you look at it that way, it makes so much sense, man. Wow. Now I'm going to work on my passion inside me, and everywhere I go, I will bring my love with me. God damn. Yeah, but it's very awesome way of looking at things, right? If you literally love yourself and you're passionate, then you can actually turn everything into good. No matter if you're working at a job that you don't like because maybe it's temporary or because of your circumstances. There's like this hype going, should you follow your passion or not? And the truth is, nobody can answer that except for you, because your circumstances might be different. Maybe you have to do something that you don't like because you have to support your family financially, and that is the only way to go right now, right? And it's only temporary. And I think what people think to themselves is that, oh, if they do this, they're going to be stuck in that like forever, and is their life like not aligned with their vision or journey? But they don't look at the bigger picture. I'm saying this to myself as well, because I used to be like a perfectionist, and I still am, but not that bad anymore. And when you're a perfectionist, you kind of want everything to be perfect and go with the passion, etc. But like you said, if you develop that passion inside of you, then yeah, everything will be great. Now, what is happiness to you? I always have these four fields, which is health, wealth, love, and happiness. But what is happiness to you?
Asking the deep questions. Um, yeah, as far as I can tell, happiness has a lot to do, or almost everything to do, with living according to your values. It's the same thing as confidence. Um, it's hard to live a happy life if you know you're betraying your values. Say if your value is truth and honesty, those are two values you hold, and you're in a committed relationship and you're being adulterous, and you're hiding that from your spouse. It's hard to be happy when you know you're actively living in a life that is betraying your values. those values of honesty and trust. Um, just like with anything, really, like if you have an ideal for what a moral, upright, um, just life is, um, I think there's no substitute in terms of happiness other than living in accordance to those values. I'll find that pretty much anyone, if they can think of something, an area in which they're falling short that has no benefit other than to just align with their values. Say like, I'm trying to think of a personal example. Say one of your values is like gratitude. I don't know if that's more of like a state of mind, but let's just roll with it. And somebody has done something for you that really, really touched you, right? And you want to be grateful for it. And if you suppress that, if you suppress being grateful for it, you're kind of suppressing happiness in a way. Like instead of, there's something so nice about being like, oh, thank you so much for this. Like, this means so much to me. There's something really good and like primally, like you feel so aligned when you're expressing that. Most people, I think, have, whether they know it or not, a value of gratitude that's being left untapped. That's just one example. Like, yeah, it's a really long process figuring out what your values are, but there is no substitute to living a just life for no other reason other than to live a good life, right? To live a life that's right, to live a life that's good, and to live a life that's noble. Achievements aside, goals aside, it's just, am I being a good person according to what I think a good person is, to the best of my ability? And I think that's where happiness comes from.
Wow. I like the fact that you prioritize on values, and I think it's really, really important as well because they define who you are, right? Your identity. Yeah. Makes me think, man. You make me think. Anyway, yeah, three last questions. I have like so many more questions, but you don't have too much time. So, what is a question that I'd like to ask? Yeah, let's talk about books. Your favorite book concerning mindset?
Ooh, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
Oh yeah.
Have you read it?
Procrastination. Are you like a procrastinator?
Absolutely. I'm the worst procrastinator and perfectionist that you've ever met. And that's why I've developed all these hacks to try to like stop me from doing that. But yeah, that one's incredible. Like it completely blew me away when I first read it. It was like a kick in the ass. So it's just like, holy.
That revelation, right? Like, whoa, what?
It's like, holy crap. That's what's happening to me. Yeah, there are a few books I've read that are like that.
Yeah, I actually have it too. I haven't finished it yet, but basically it talks about like how you actually, cope with procrastination and how you actually improve that. And
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I haven't finished it either, and it's a hard book to finish because every time you read a paragraph, you're like, I have to do something. Like every time I open it, I have to do something.
hey, that is actually very good habit. Like that is your trigger, right? And every time you like procrastinate, so you just look at that book and then you have to do something, right? So
Yeah, it's my favorite book I've never read.
no, that's good, man. Oh wow, that's cool, bro. So before we get to the last question, tell my people where they can connect with you further, bro.
Easiest place to connect with me is my Twitter. So if you go to my YouTube channel, Better Ideas, just click on the channel. There's a link to my Twitter, but it's at Better Ideas TV. Probably the easiest way to connect with me. If you have any questions or if you just want to send me a meme or something like that. But yeah, that's probably easiest.
Awesome. So as you know, my channel is all about mastering your mind, to gain that self-confidence, self-esteem. So what is what was that one revelation and one activity that has helped you the most in regards to mastering your mind?
The one activity that has helped me the most in mastering my mind.
Yes.
That's a really good question. It has to be something along the lines of one of, I don't know. Okay, stoicism isn't an activity, but practicing stoicism is. And I think when I really started to research Socrates and Marcus Aurelius, it helped me develop, and even Ryan Holiday, kind of modern day Stoic from The Obstacle is the Way, really helped me kind of master my emotions, or at least sort of like start to become the master of my emotions. And it helped me look at life with a newfound sense of objectivity. So like if something is a really bad situation and everyone else is freaking out and the world is ending for them, say a tragedy happens or something like that, stoicism will help you not suppress it, but fully feel it, look at it, and realize that yes, this does suck. I am experiencing pain because of this. However, what can I do about it? It puts you in a position of control. What can I do about it? How can I transcend it? And how can I let this experience that I'm going through help me grow, help me help others, and be sort of a foundational building block for the rest of my life. Like, yeah, I think stoicism can teach you a lot about, looking at pretty much any situation with an objectivity, not like a psychopathic, completely detached from emotion, but more just a deeper understanding of that emotion and what it means for your life as a whole. So stoicism, or practicing stoicism, would be sort of the most important thing I've done in terms of developing my mindset.
Emotions, wow. They can be really powerful. But yeah, if you actually know how to cope with emotions, that will be really helpful. And one question that I always live by every single day is, how can I make this better? Like, no matter in which situation I am, and sometimes I am not like the master of my mind and stuff, but I always ask myself, okay, if I'm not living the way I want to, how can I make this better? And I always ask this question, and because your mind, your brain actually always comes up with an answer that is, how do you say, is aligned with your questions. So if you ask positive questions, you will come up with positive answers. And if you ask negative questions, you will come up with negative answers, from Tony Robbins. So anyway, bro, Joey, my man, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom with us. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. I hope you also enjoyed it, bro. And
Absolutely.
guys, for those of you who are watching and listening to this, tell me, what was your favorite advice from Joey? Also connect with him further. I will leave the link in the description. Remember that you are freaking awesome and that you can do it if you put your mind to it. Winnie out. For now.